Welcome back to the Frugal Gardener's homestead. This is lesson 3 for beginning gardeners. I will put down the link for the first 2 lessons at the bottom of this video. And today we're going to talk about, really getting an early start on your gardening this year. So basically, we're going to talk about what pots that you should be using or could be using. And the second thing we're going to talk about is root vegetables, because we spend a lot of time talking about what we're growing above ground, but we spend very little time talking about what's growing in ground. So, oh, there is a little poochie. So, this is what I'm going to show you guys last. This just came probably about an hour ago, and it's going to be something that you can use in your garden, even though you're just starting out. This is something that is going to be helpful to you. So let's start with what I have already talked about briefly, and that is these elephant garlic. The thing is, when you're planting root vegetables, and this is technically not a vegetable, but the fact of the matter is that this goes to my point of having to know how deep your container needs to be and how wide your container needs to be. So basically, this is showing you that I do have 6 elephant garlics growing in here. This is about 7 or 8 inches. You can see it from here, and I've done this before. And as I said in the previous video, this wasn't looking so hot a while ago. I won't go into the whole explanation again, but it's bounced back. It's doing well. Now, this is something else that I planted. These are radishes. These are cherry bell radishes. One of the reasons why I like growing these is because they grow fast. They grow in less than 30 days. So again, shallow container. This is not even 7 inches, but this will work. So let's talk a little bit about starters. This is my Jamaican sorrel starters. These plants get pretty big. As a matter of fact, they can get as tall as these autumn olives behind me. But I usually put in 3 or 4 seeds. A lot of people just put in 1 or 2 seeds, but I expect 1 or 2 of these not to germinate. They all did, which is great. So the problem with putting too many seeds in is fairly obvious. This is going to get root bound pretty quick on me if I don't transfer these pretty soon, but that's okay. I'm on it. That's not going to be a problem. This is a classic example of the proper way to do this. And so basically, you put 1 in here, and you don't have to keep worrying about it outgrowing the pot as fast. This is basil. These are also basils. This pot's a little bit larger. Now, to my point, I just planted tomato seeds in here. Remember, we talked about the frost date. My last frost date is coming up in a couple of weeks. So I put this in here to give me a head start. It's more of a kickstart, if you will. So by planting these today, I haven't even watered this yet because I wanted to stop and do this video. I'll probably use my new $5 watering can. So I use an old spoon. Just makes it easier because it's not really a large pot. But look at the difference in the size of this pot and the size of this pot. This pot is twice the size. So if I put 4 seeds in here, which, like I said, probably not a good idea. I probably should have used less. And I put 2 seeds in here. This is going to last me way longer than the 2 weeks or 3 weeks that I need to get past the frost. And then I can go ahead and put this directly into a container, or I can put this into the ground. So speaking of containers, let me, let me do this first. Let's go back to what is actually in this pot. A lot of people think that this is soil. This is not soil. And this is the reason why this is not soil. If you look closely in here, you'll see what looks like sticks or twigs or broken up branches. This is what passes for soil these days. It didn't used to be like this. They've gotten worse because it's filler, if you ask me. I buy this because I have a lot of pots, because I have 4 in-ground gardens and it gets expensive. So I do buy the cheap stuff, and then I end up having to add more nutrients to it because I can't really afford to go out and buy the soil that I want to buy. So this is what you're going to use when you start growing in ground. When you start growing in pots, you want something like this all-purpose potting mix. Here's another one. This is a different brand, organic indoor potting mix for house plants. Now, don't be fooled, because this says organic, and I'm not sure. This says this will feed your plants for up to 6 months. Here's the deal. Neither of these are actually soil. These are not dirt. They can say all natural, but what this comes down to is this is peat moss. This is pine bark, compost, perlite, and I think this one says they don't use peat moss. There it is, perlite for aeration and drainage, coconut coir, yucca extract. So it tells you what's in here on the label. And yes, here it is, peat free. So they don't use peat moss in theirs. It's a whole story about that. You probably don't even know what any of this stuff is. And for the purposes of this video, you don't need to know. Basically, it's lighter, and this is what's going to help your seeds to germinate, because if it's compact, then obviously you're going to have an issue with your seeds pushing through the soil. So this is super light, and this is going to serve its purpose. And then once it gets tall enough, the plants get tall enough, and the weather gets warm enough, and the ground gets warm enough, then you can go ahead and put it in the ground. Now, this is a Frugal Gardener, so I don't like spending a lot of money. If you don't want to invest in buying this potting mix, or if you can't afford to, a lot of people are gardening now that weren't gardening before, and it's basically because, everything is a mess now. Between the war and the gas prices and the food prices and the tariffs, it's just, everything is so expensive. So here's a hack for you. This is basically just aluminum pan, but you'll notice there's holes in this pan. This pan has seen some usage, and they aren't that expensive, but I tend to use things over and over again. You can put your soil in here. When I say soil, I'm talking about actual dirt. You can take dirt from the ground, from your plants. If you cannot afford to purchase this, or if you just don't want to, like I said, you can put dirt in here, boil some water. Obviously you have to make sure you have drainage holes. Boil some water, put the soil in here, gently, carefully, pour the boiling water over the soil. Why? Because this is going to get rid of all your critters. This is going to get rid of your gnats. This is going to get rid of anything that's living in your soil. Keep in mind, this is going to be in your home for a couple of weeks. This is going to be in your home until it gets warm enough for you to put it outside. You don't want these things flying all over your house. I've been there. It's a pain in the behind. Sometimes they're hard to get rid of. So this is a simple way of doing it. Now there is a second way, which if you don't want to deal with the water, you can use the same pan or any pan. You can put your soil in the pan, put it in the oven. That's right. Heat your oven to 200 degrees. Put it in the oven for a half hour, 45 minutes. I would moisten it first. It doesn't have to be like super wet, but moisten it, put it in the oven, maybe even stir it a little bit, and that will also kill all the bugs. So that way you save yourself some money. I'm coming back to this guy before this video is over. So now you have a way to save money and a way to plant your starters. This is going to live here until harvest because this is about a week old. You see how fast these have sprouted already. These are going to go, I'm going to show you where this is going to go, and I'm going to show you where this is going to go. So here we are. So I put these pots out here for a reason, these containers I should say, and this is another casualty from last winter. I had water in here, didn't realize I had water in here, and yep, it cracked, but no biggie, because when these crack, I do not throw them away. I just use them for planting. Now this is, if I was to guess, I would say this is probably about 1.5 feet tall, which is a great size for me to plant my tomatoes. So once the those tomatoes that I showed you earlier up here, once they're ready to come outside, I mean, I can put them in the ground. Some I'm going to probably have in the ground, but I'm definitely going to use this, fill this with soil, add the nutrients, and then I will grow my tomatoes in here. Now, you'll see I've moved these elephant garlic. The thing about this elephant garlic, a lot of people don't realize they will go out and they will buy elephant garlic to grow. And again, that's perfectly fine, but I spend like about $4 and I got about 5 or 6 cloves. Now, this is a little bit shorter than this one and this one. So this is the shortest, and you have this one, and you have this one. The difference is not so much the height. It is, you can tell the difference, but the main difference is the surface area. So if I wanted to, I could plant all of these garlics in this one area. So what I want to end up doing is I'll put about 4 in here. I'll hold on to the other 2, and then I want to talk to you guys about spacing. So as it turns out, I have about 7 in here. So I'll take these 3 and I'll save them for later. This is about as far apart as I can space these. You want the pointed ends up, and you want these down in the soil 3 to 4 inches. Now, the thing with garlic is it needs to go through a cold spell. I usually plant mine in the fall, and I overwinter it, meaning that it goes dormant in the wintertime, like what you saw up in my garden. And then it comes back in the spring, boom, that's normally when it takes off. So you can do the same thing in the spring, but this weather has been so crazy and unpredictable. I'm just going to see what happens, but I think it's going to be fine. So as it turns out, I have about 7 in here. So I'll take these 3 and I'll save them for later. This is about as far apart as I can space these. You want the pointed ends up, and you want these down in the soil 3 to 4 inches. Now, the thing with garlic is it needs to go through a cold spell. I usually plant mine in the fall, and I overwinter it, meaning that it goes dormant in the wintertime, like what you saw up in my garden. And then it comes back in the spring, boom, that's normally when it takes off. So you can do the same thing in the spring, but this weather has been so crazy and unpredictable. I'm just going to see what happens, but I think it's going to be fine. Okay, so I will water this and I will label this and I'll keep an eye on it for the summer. So this will probably be harvested before winter. So that's a long time, but that's the way it goes. Some things you can get in 30 days, like radishes, and other things you are going to have to wait for. This is one of my favorite pots. This was given to me by my ex-neighbor, Miss Nancy. It's sturdy. It's lasted me for years. And this is something else that you can plant something in that has deep roots. But you are going to, this is not really good for onions, not really good for garlic. This you can also use for pole beans. You can use this for tomatoes, because this is about 1.5 feet like the one that's behind me, and this soil will definitely have to be worked, and more soil will have to be added to this before it will be workable, I guess is the right word for me to use in this case. Now, this is something that needs to be addressed. A lot of these here, you can see where the lavender is coming back here. It's coming back here. These pots were supposed to have been temporary, but I got tied up last summer with a whole bunch of other things, and I didn't, and some of them died, so that's on me. But I will definitely get these out of here. These are going in the ground. Pretty much all of them are going in the ground. So before I get to the surprise, the unboxing, I wanted to reemphasize one thing. That is, you guys do not need to memorize all this stuff, because it's on the back of pretty much every seed pack. This is on the front of the seed pack. This came yesterday. So it tells you 6 to 8 weeks before planting outdoor. It tells you how deep, 1/4 inch deep. It tells you how many days of germination. It tells you what temperature you really should be keeping this at. And those are for tomatoes. They're different fruits and vegetables are going to be different. These are bell peppers, or people call them sweet peppers. And here's a little chart here, days of germination, same thing. So 1/4 inch. And here's the thing I wanted to get to. The spacing, 24 inches. See, that's the thing. I would not put more than one of these pepper plants in a pot like I just showed you guys, because the roots are going to take over. Just like if you leave this in here too long, you're going to have something called root bound. The roots will hit the bottom of these plants, and then they have nowhere to go. So they don't curl up into itself. In other words, the roots will start to come back up. The roots are going to tangle up with the roots that are there. Basically, you're going to have several roots that are going to just strangle each other out, and you will most likely end up killing whatever it is you planted. This is the reason why you have to have some sort of idea of what is the requirements for the depth and the height. Because if you don't, see the plant space in here, this is a little more generous. This is 6 inches. The depth is 1/2 inch, where these are 1/4 inch. Why? Because these seeds are bigger. The larger the seeds, the deeper you can plant them. And that's the reason why when we get to the garlic, which is not a seed, they go down 3 to 4 inches, whereas this is 1/4 inch, this is 1/2 inch. I see you're picking up what I'm putting down here. So that's the reason why it is important to know the width and the depth. After a while, this stuff is going to come natural to you. So it's not really a huge deal. It's not like, oh, this is too much for me to remember. You're not expected to remember all this. So I do have a question. This series was meant to end next week, but I can continue it if you guys are interested. Let me know in the comments below. You don't have to be a whole big long thing. I know you guys are busy, but put down, yes, extend it, or, I want more information, or continue, or whatever it is. I'll know what you mean if you comment. So this way I can decide whether to continue this on for another couple of weeks or not, because after this series, I'm going to do gardening with children, or gardening with your children, with your kids. Doesn't have to be your children, but more than likely it's going to be your children, your grandchildren. So that's going to be following this series. But we have plenty of time. I still have a couple of weeks more that I can do on this if you guys are interested. Now, I'm going to show you something that if you are a new gardener, you're probably going to say, what the heck's going on here? This is it. Potatoes in a box that were mailed to me. That came a couple hours ago. To be precise, these are 5 pounds of potatoes, but they're not just regular, ordinary potatoes. These are called seed potatoes, potatoes for planting. These are Kennebecks. There's the label. Here's a good look at them. You can see that a couple of them are already starting to sprout. These are kind of pricey, and I'll tell you why they are, and I'll tell you why I got them. They're pricey because these are more disease resistant than a lot of other potatoes, and these are larger than a lot of other potatoes in terms of size and also yield. This is what came in the pack. This picture is not of the Kennebecks. This is. So this is 5 pounds. This is going to give me a boatload of potatoes, and I'm trying to get you guys a good look at it. You can take store-bought potatoes, but sometimes they use what they call growth inhibitors because they don't want these eyes. They don't want these to come up. So now, in next week's video, and like I said, next week may be the last video if you guys don't want the series continued. I will show you how I plant these, and you basically plant these the same way that you would plant any other potato. It's nothing, special about it. But because we were talking about root vegetables, and because we were talking about food prices, this is something that you can do to feed your family on the cheap. Pretty much everybody likes potatoes. They're versatile. They're easy to store. The potatoes I grew last summer and harvested in the fall, I still had some around by the time we roll around to Thanksgiving. So yeah, these are Kennebecks if you're interested in getting any. So that's my little surprise for you guys for today. And that wraps up this video. I'm the Frugal Gardener. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. Please, please, please share this, repost this, send this link out, because I'm sure there's people out there that are struggling with food insecurities. And now the weather's warming up. I mean, we're into April now. We're into spring. A lot of people might want to know how to grow their own food and don't know where to go to get that information. So I'll catch you guys on the flip side. And remember, when you grow your own food, you'll always know where it comes from. See you next week.